What's up? What's up? Test, test, one, two, three. Clean and shaved. I've noticed the last 19 videos or whatever I've done, I was actually kind of looking rugged. You didn't see the true bald and shaved, cleaned up couch hustler, real estate investor that I am. Anyways, deal number 20. 5313 Lomika Lane. Sold this property twice. Kind of weird, right? I lived in it twice too. Pretty weird too. But 5313 Lomika Lane. How I picked up this deal. This one was on Facebook Marketplace. It was I found the deal on the MLS. They were trying to sell it, couldn't sell it. But what I did is I found out who the owners were, which you can do. It's public record. You just look it up online. But I found a way of finding them through Facebook. So I looked up their names and I looked up on Facebook. I just looked up their names, first and last names. They pulled up, and then most people that try to sell something on Facebook or in the world, they usually post it on Facebook. So it kind of matched. So I found them, found their property that they were trying to sell, and it was on there. And then I ended up messaging them through Facebook. This is a little bit before a lot of the scams started happening through Facebook and OfferUp. So I think that made a big difference on them kind of trusting somebody through Facebook, for an offer. Anyways, messaged them directly. I think the next day I went out to their property and actually purchased the property. Walked over there, walked the property with them. They showed me around. Had two little kids, I remember. And they were pretty happy about me being there because I guess they were trying to sell it for a while, couldn't sell it. Very new community, very new area, and they couldn't get rid of it. They just wanted to get out of the property. So I took it sub 2, took it over. The property was $1,800 a month, I remember. And I remember them saying that they prayed that night before and that I was like that it was like a blessing that I was able to come through and help them out. Different one on this one was the seller actually refinanced it. It was weird. It was like he refinanced the deal for me to give me a better interest rate. So it was kind of cool. So I ended up saving like $1,700 a month, and $100 a month. So the payment was like $1,800, ended up going down to like $1,700. He refinanced it, deeded it to me right after they refinanced it. I can't remember if we went through a traditional escrow or if I just kind of did a deed transfer. So I started learning a little bit about doing deed transfers, more and more sub 2 deals I started doing, right? In the beginning, I was just doing escrows, but it cost, right? So every time you do an escrow regular transaction, it costs you about $2,000 to $3,000 to do a transaction. So I started learning how do I save some money here? Well, all you got to really do is just get a grant deed typed up. So I would go to these little companies that were doing like paperwork for courts or whatever, any type of divorce or any type of, if you need to serve somebody, there's companies out there that you could pay to do these deeds. And it was costing me about $100 for someone to type up a deed. And then I would go to a notary and then have the notary sign with the seller and have them deed it to my trust or to however I took ownership of these properties. So I started saving money instead of just going to escrow and paying for the escrow fees, was just going and just doing the grant deed transfers. But then I found out that I can even type up my own grant deeds. Like I didn't even have to hire the company that was doing this paperwork, this legal documentation preparation paperwork. I didn't have to pay anybody for that. I actually just went into Google, typed in grant deed PDF, and you could print it out. I mean, you could get really fancy ones if you want to pay like $100 a year and it gets all the legal docs. What's the name of that company? It's like Legal Docs, Legal Zoom or something like that. And they pretty much had every documentation for every state that you would ever need for any type of, transfer of whatever, a will or a trust or whatever you need. They have it there and it's free. Or you pay $100 a year and you get all the docs you want. And they usually come with the second page for the notary to sign or a witness to sign. And that's how you do it. So I started doing that. The bad thing about doing that is if you're not careful and you don't check the history of the properties or the person very well, there could be liens attached to them because there's no title insurance unless you use escrow companies, right? So whenever you go through escrow, the whole purpose of the escrow is for them to check and make sure that there's no title issues. Well, you could save a couple thousand, by just doing it directly, getting the deed, deeded to you, and then walking it to the recorder's office and recording it, and boom, you own the property. Or you could just go through escrow and pay the fees. The only other thing too about escrows and titles is that if it is an FHA deal, sometimes they won't do the sub two deal. They won't do the sub two deal, and that's how I actually found out about one of the deals, is because they denied it. They didn't want to do the deal because it was an FHA, and they didn't want to do the transaction and give it title insurance for me to take deed to the property. So that's why I had to do it on my own, because I couldn't get a title insurance company to do it. So, anyways, I got it done. Started typing up my own deeds, started walking it over to the county recorder's office and recording my own deeds, and saving, thousands of dollars. But occasionally, a few issues did come up after I sold the properties where it did cost me, because I had to pay some type of lien or whatever that might have been on the property from the previous seller. But, you take care of it. Luckily, there's enough equity spread for a lot of these deals that I was able to cover, $1,000 cost, $2,000 cost, whatever it is. But just a learning experience there, that you don't necessarily need to go through escrow to own a property, but you won't get title insurance. No escrow company will give you title insurance. You have to go through them to get that title insurance. So it's kind of a gamble, I guess, depending on how you look at it. But shit, all real estate's a gamble. That's just the way it is. I mean, I'm not going to let that stop me. I will always, if I have to just go type up a grant deed and have somebody do it, I'll do it. So anyways, got this property. They refinanced it. I ended up taking over the property. Let me see. I moved in this one. I actually moved in this one for a little bit, and I put it for sale by rent to own, sign in front of it. And I think this one I got $18,000 down. I did get $18,000 down on the first person on this one. They were there for maybe, I would say, about 2 to 3 years. And she ended up calling me one day, and she said, "Hey, I can't make the payments no more." So straight up just told me, "I can't make the payments no more. I'll give you the keys back Wednesday," or whatever, like that simple. And I always feel a little guilty about these, I don't know why. It's business, but I do feel a little guilty, because these people are putting down payments. I don't know how like B of A and Wells Fargo and all these lenders that do this cars and repo people's cars. I don't know. I guess maybe they just got so many people that they're doing that they just don't feel guilty about it. But I always do. Even though it's business, I always feel a little guilty. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the human nature of, having to repo people's houses or cars. But, even though they put the money down and, we made the deal, and they for some reason can't make the payments anymore, and I have to take back the property, a deal's a deal. But it does make me feel a little bit some type of way, I guess you'd say. Anyways, I got the keys back. I didn't see the lady. She had somebody meet me to give me the keys, and they gave me the keys, and the property was in okay condition. It wasn't bad. It just needed to be cleaned up a little bit. So I cleaned it up, and then and that was it. Just moved into it again for a second time, I think, at that time. And I lived in there for about a year, put it back for sale again, rent to own, and got $20,000 on the second time. So I remember the second person came, got $20,000 down, and I had to move out. Luckily, I had a few other properties, so I was easily moving into those ones. But I moved into the second property. I moved into another property, put them in there. They put 20 down, and they were there for about 2 years. And I think that was during the process of COVID. So they always made payment, no issue. But they ended up refinancing and caught that good luck spread during that time of the market going up after COVID, and they ended up cashing out, or they still own it. Actually, they still own the property. The second person's still in there because I've seen them, and but they did get in a good time. They instant equity basically. The 20,000 they put down in the market going up, they ended up doing okay, about 80 grand, cashed me out. I think I made an additional 30,000 on this sale once they refinanced, got their own loan, and paid me off. I got it. So on that one, there you go. Look at that, 60 grand almost I made on that deal over like a time frame of 5 years or so. And all it was just a sub-2 deal, and I got to live in the property. Very nice property. It's a home run. They're out there. So, you gotta just get out there and try to pick up these sub-2 deals, but they're there. So that's how I picked up 5313 Lomika. But yeah, just, going back on those grant deeds, just think about that. You don't always have to go to escrow to get those. You can do your own grant deeds. Just go straight to Google, pull it up, type in a PDF for grant deeds, and it's that easy. You can get them. It's just you're not going to get your title insurance. And sometimes when you do sell the property, the new escrow company will make you have to almost have a secondary notary to verify that they gave you the property. I've experienced that too because I didn't get title insurance. But, it just depends on the title company. Not all of them are the same. I've had some do that and some not. So you just got to be really choosy on who your escrow and title companies are. They're usually the smaller ones, mom and pop ones, that are kind of better and lenient than the bigger companies out there. So, but you know, it always ends up going through. The deals always go through. So there you go. The Couch Hustler, always hustling.